Deadass.
Deadass.
Touchdown James Cook, let's go! Welcome to Dynasty Depot, where we talk about fantasy football, specifically on the dynasty side of things. We talk rookies, but defense matters here, and we want to welcome in. Hopefully, sit back in your car, enjoy your commute, grab a drink, not if you're driving, and maybe a snack, and let's have a good discussion here. Jumping right into it, we just finished week one. Technically, I mean, we were just talking about James Cook. Technically, we are recording this Thursday night, so it's week two. So we're kind of behind the ball on this week. But week one is finally over, and let's just jump right into it. What are our surprises of the week? Ryan, do you want to go with yours first? I got three. All
Yeah,
three are on the defensive side of the ball for me.
I have four. But to start off, to with what you said in the beginning, I heard a song this weekend. I forget who it's by, and that sucks. But a lyric is "I'm God's drunkest driver on his narrowest two-way road."
Don't do that. We do not condone any of that.
So my surprise of the week.
Drink
Going,
responsibly.
going into it, I have Isaiah Likely. I feel like that would be a consensus take. I don't feel like anyone expected for him to have the production he had. He went 9 for 12 targets, 111 yards, and a tutty. Some people would say he snapped. And I just love to watch that. I have Tank Bigsby coming in next. Knowing the Jaguar running back room, Tank Bigsby, stud at Auburn, Travis Etienne, stud at Clemson. They have a really strong running back room. I was personally surprised with how many touches he had, um, and with Etienne's fumble in the red zone, or maybe just short of the red zone, but he it looked like he would have punched it in if the ball didn't get punched out. Um, Hopefully, for any of you Tank Bigsby owners, that translates to more touches down the road from his performance on Sunday. Following that, I have Jaden Reed. Andrew loves this take. Jaden Reed this week he went 4 for 6, 138 yards and a touchdown. Personally destroyed my week one. Personally made Andrew's week one. Um,
I played Ryan.
I would also like to say this guy snapped. Um, it was, yeah, wasn't expecting it. Um, really wasn't. Yeah, he snapped. Don't know what else to say. And then my final surprise of the week. It's kind of a doom. Um, the tight end room across the NFL. Looking at um just the stats for week one for tight ends. Only
Listen, you can't say that and have a tight end on your surprises of the week.
one guy does not make a whole like entire league of one position. And the reason being is you had only 5 touchdowns in the tight end room in total. That means Isaiah likely counts for 20% of touchdowns scored by tight ends. You had two guys over 50 yards and receiving yards. And then that was actually Isaiah and Brock Bowers. Love Brock Bowers. And only three guys in the tight end room with uh with five or more catches. Which is very
Nice.
disappointing. Very disappointing. Andrew.
So my surprises of the week is I'm gonna start off with this dude. I don't know. I have a lot of stocks in the Bills going into the season. I decided that I wasn't gonna be high on the Bills, and then the more and more research I did, I actually really like what they're building here. I have Josh under contract, but I'm gonna talk more on the defensive side of the ball. They have this stud on the D line. He is 24 years old. It's Greg Rousseau. I'm gonna mispronounce that. I mispronounced that. Rousseau is how you spell his
Rousseau?
last name. Rousseau. And this dude tore it up with 3 sacks on Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray, I get it. And he's doing nothing right now against Miami. But this dude has star potential. And he broke out. He had a monster start to the year, and I think he's going to be a great developmental player on that defensive line in Buffalo. Another person that I have on my surprise of the week is Zach Bond. If you don't have him, he is a beast. And what I've always said about fantasy football on the defensive side of the ball, you are looking for those studs that are going to be making consistent tackles. And Zach Bond was playing sideline to sideline against my Packers, creating havoc backfield and in the middle of the field. And he just got tackles. He was very impressive to watch and a solid depth piece for any fantasy league. And then the other one is this old fart, and I have him, Eric Kendricks. When he moved over to Dallas, I was not expecting him to have the kind of season start that he had. Yes, he had dehydration issues and stuff. He'll be fine. He's a 32-year-old linebacker. He's been around. He's always done it. He's been an all-pro before. This dude knows how to play football. Don't worry about that issue. But when you have 2 sacks against the Cleveland Browns, I know Deshaun Watson ain't nothing, but like when you have that offensive line that the Browns have, which is a middle of the pack, if not a little bit on the higher end of that, it's impressive. Him and Micah hit it off, and I'm really excited to see what they do. As Micah and Kendrick's stockholder, so I'm excited to see what they do. And those were my surprises of the week. It was a fun weekend of football. I did not do good in my picks for the week, but I enjoyed being able to sit down on the couch all day Sunday, and I had my iPad up watching highlights, and I had Red Zone on. I don't usually watch Red Zone. I usually watch individual games or split screen, and it was nice seeing 7 hours of commercial-free football. So, um, but that being said, let's jump into this is Ryan Schiavone's. I actually have no notes on this segment. This is going to be completely up to Ryan. Our rookie expert is our rookie segment. So, Ryan, what is your rookie segment this week?
Yeah, man, that's crazy. You put my whole government name out there. That's wild. Yeah, guys, starting off with the rookie segment. I think this is gonna be one that people expect. Xavier Worthy. I'm not willing to admit that I'm eating crow just yet. I'm still not very long on Worthy stock, but you gotta recognize it. He went 2 for 3 for targets, 47 yards receiving, and 1 touchdown. Um, in the first game, he looked really good. He looked smooth. He looked fast. Kansas City got him the ball in the open field and let him do his thing. Um, I'm scared of him long term because if he looked like he was running hard and fast, which is what you want, but if he doesn't develop a Tyler Lockett like playing style, where if he's in a situation where there's a couple guys on him, maybe he's double covered, triple covered, and depending on where he catches the ball, if he cannot get down, Xavier Worthy, he has too small of a frame to, I think, sustain those hits. So great week one. If you have them and you're confident in them, it's a great sign. Hopefully, for the player himself, he continues that and has a great career. I just don't know if I see that happening. Nonetheless, good week one out of Xavier Worthy. Following that, Brian Thomas. He's a receiver for the Jaguars. I loved it. I'll tell you what. He went 4 for 4 for 47 yards as well and 1 touchdown. I'll tell you what, man. Watching that game against the Dolphins, he looked comfortable. Doug Peterson wanted to get him the ball, and I can definitely see him being the feature receiver moving forward. They have Gabe Davis, Christian Kirk, and Brian Thomas. I believe they're starting 3. Um, and I could just see Brian Thomas really solidifying his role in the next couple seasons as wide receiver 1 and a guy who deserves to be potentially a top 2 pick in your fantasy draft for redraft leagues. And if you have him now, great job. You should. But for some reason, if he skate by your league, pick him up now. This guy, with what I saw, he looked like the Jags' future in the wide receiver room. Following that, I'm gonna hit you with another receiver, Lad McConkey. Kid had a wiggle. Kid had a little juice out of him. You know,
Dude's a
he
little tiny though.
dude, he had a little juice, tiny or not. Oh, I look, tiny is okay, but what scares me is like tiny, tiny, and that's what though. That's my concern with Xavier Worthy. Um, but to switch to Lad McConkey, went 5 for 7, 39 yards, and a tutty with a little at the end. Looked great. In my in my notes, I put white boy had some juice, and
Yes, sir.
and I think that's what you're gonna see week in and week out. He was a good receiver at Georgia, very solid for the Bulldogs. And I think in this revamped Chargers team with Coach Harbaugh at the helm, I don't think anyone is gonna have it better than them. That's a little call out to the Harbaugh family, if you know, you know. Um, but no, I think Herbert can definitely grow McConkey's role in the future, of course, as they get comfortable. But I liked what I saw. I liked what I saw. Um, About to follow it up with another.
Hold
It's
on. Before you go there, do you have defensive players on this? If not, I wanna input
I
one
don't
right
have
here.
any.
Segue.
I don't have
The
any.
talking about bulldogs, there is this bulldog. I'm gonna touch on this very briefly. Javon Bullard is an absolute dog safety lined up against Xavier McKinney on the Packers defense. And I'm just gonna say one thing: he looks like an absolute dog. He laid out AJ Brown on a pick. Like had AJ Brown on the ground staring over him. He's a dog. He had 11 tackles, 9 fantasy points. You always want your safeties to be the ones that are very physical and tackling, and I just wanted to put a little shout out there on Javon Bullard. But back to you, Ryan. Sorry for my interjection.
Oh no, you're good. I'm gonna take a little time out for a rookie segment. Do you have James Cook in our 8 man?
Oh yeah, I just saw another touchdown.
Third touchdown. You better be starting him.
Kilger, he is starting. Kilger, actually, he's our Twitter guy, formerly known as Twitter, now called X. He's our Twitter guy, and he's actually blowing up my phone right now, saying James Cook, let him cook.
Yep.
And little does he know that I have Josh Allen, James Cook, and Kincaid in one league, and I am living off life right now.
All right, so to hop off your high horse, um, gosh darn it, man! I wish I could have a team like that, but that's on me.
I already have 39 points. Whoa, James Cook's already at 26 points. I love. We should
Yeah,
do we should do podcasts during live games more often.
yeah. No, maybe I'll get some juice off of that. But speaking about the success of the Bills running back room, I'm gonna go to their receiver room with this one. I'm gonna go Keon Coleman. He went 4 for 5, 51 yards. I think he grew
Is he a
his role in
rookie?
that off. He is. Played at Florida State last year. Transferred from
Interesting.
Michigan State. Yep. Um, but no, I think he grew his role this past weekend. It looked like the Bills were trying to get him some 50-50 balls and that Josh Allen was trusting him to go up and come down with a couple. Some I think there's two. One which is the drop registered for the 4 for 5, and then one was just uncatchable, or maybe there was a flag, but it wasn't in his sphere of hands. Um, but no, it's they had tried to connect with him on a goal line fade that didn't work. But just seeing that was a good sign. Plus, he had a super duper catch on the sideline. I forget what quarter it was, but the DB was just all up on him. Caught the ball, got 2 feet in, got down. It's what you want to see out of a rookie wideout. Keon Coleman, very very bullish on him. And then the last one for my rookie segment, I'm gonna go with Bucky Irvin. Right. This more of a the lower end of it. I'm definitely not ecstatic, but I did like what I saw out of him. He had 9 carries, 62 yards. He's not going to be a guy that you're going to end up starting. Rashad White, he has that position. Bucky's definitely going to be the handicap or the handcuff. But he looked good when he was running. He looked fluid. When there was a hole, he hit it. He hit it hard. There was some explosion out of him. I could definitely see him being a potential flex, depending on how the season goes. I wouldn't start him just yet, but I did see some good stuff out of him, and hopefully he does good for my Bucks. Uh, Boj?
Give it up for Ryan for the first rookie segment on Dynasty Depot. This is Shipment 1 of Season 2, and that is a new segment that we are bringing in. Um, so, moving forward, I'm going to talk here a little bit about defensive segment. Ryan, do you have someone you brought up for the defensive segment, or is this going to be all me on this one?
Oh, this is gonna be all you. I did not have anyone down for the defensive segment. I can come with one next week if you'd
All
like.
good. So the defensive segment, I'm going to touch on two people that we've already talked about in my surprises of the week. Is Greg Russo and Zach Bond were absolute dogs. I know it's week one. I just kind of want to talk about defensive scoring again for our viewers. So basically, I am looking for your big lineman, your athletic lineman. You're looking at I can't think of his name. Miles Garrett. You're looking at the Bosa twins, brothers. Sorry, they might as well be twins. Um, and you're looking at people like Aiden Hutchinson and stuff, which I'm going to talk about here in a little bit, foreshadowing my trade for targets of the week. And we're going to go from there. But I'm looking for linebackers that are playing all over the place. You're talking about your Eric Kendricks. You're talking about your Zach Bond. You're talking about your Quay Walkers. You're talking about these consistent linebackers that are making consistent tackles. And then you're also looking for your linebacker DL, which is what I was talking about, which is the Bosa's. You're looking at Micah Parsons. And then you're also looking for, in my opinion, the best players to go for is you're not wanting those big names. You're not wanting the Jairs. You're not wanting the Jalen Ramseys. They just don't get the targets to produce on fantasy. You're looking for your nickel guys. You're looking for your slot corners. You're looking for your safeties. Shout out Javon Bullard from earlier in the episode. Xavier McKinney was a great one too. I know they're both Packers right off the top of my head, but that's what you're looking for. I know right now, Rasul Douglas on the Bills is having an absolute show. I've always been super high on him. Yes, another former Packer. But just to prove my point that he's playing that nickel slot slash the nickel safety, and they're producing points. So when you're looking at your defensive side of the ball for your fantasy league this year, those are the kind of players you're looking for. Let people pay that extraordinary high amount for your Jairs, for your big name players like your Jalen Ramseys, and just let them overpay for them. If you have them, trade them away. They're not part of my trade away players of the week. But yeah, man, I think defense is going to be really solid this year. It's the lowest number of touchdowns in week one ever, and it didn't feel like it. It felt like the game is, dare I say, semi-balanced right now. So I'm actually very excited to see how the season goes on defensive and offensive side of the ball. I think we might be switching to a more defensive league right now, so it's going to be fun to watch.
I'm so stoked
Um,
for that.
but that being said, let's get into our trade targets for the week. So my biggest trade target for the week is Garrett Wilson. I think that Rodgers, you have to remember Rodgers, this is his first game back. He hasn't played for a season basically, right? He took 5 snaps or something like that last year. He hasn't played for a year. He came out, he only threw to the left side of the field, which is odd for a right-handed thrower, but nonetheless, Alan Lazard is getting all that smoke. One of the biggest waiver wire pickups of this week. Which, by the way, little interjection, we are no longer doing waiver wire and Dynasty Depots. It's just going to be a once a week, weekly roundup. So we'll touch waiver wire, but do not rely on this podcast for your waiver wire needs, as we will not be touching base on it anymore. But Alan Lazard was big on there. And I think Garrett Wilson's kind of flying under the radar. People know the talent that Garrett Wilson has and will be, but I think you can get a good price for him right now. people are scared. Alan Lazard, Rogers' former buddy, got all the looks, all the big looks. But Garrett Wilson got a lot. Rogers still talks high of him, and I'm excited to see his future. So that's definitely someone that I am willing to pay a discounted rate for at the moment. So what about you, Ryan? Who's your trade for target of the week?
Yeah, man, some people are gonna hate this, but I'm gonna stand by this, as I did in our last episode. Um, I am buying Marvin Harrison. Here's the reasoning. This is the lowest you could probably trade for Marvin Harrison, I think, in his career. He had an awful, disgusting, disappointing week one. I believe he scored like .9 points. Just not good. Kyler actually came out, I believe it was today or the other day, and he's like, it's not my job to get Marvin the ball, right? There's videos of Marvin. I forget what the situation was, but he just got out of his break super slow, and that's just things you didn't see out of him at Ohio State. Does that make me feel a certain way? Not at all. Not at all. I see Marvin having one of probably one of the best careers out of the rookie wide receiver class. I see him as a Larry Fitzgerald guy. He's going to be consistent. He's going to get you points. And I think this is probably the lowest he'll be valued his entire career in fantasy. Trade for him now. You won't regret it. Marvin Harrison.
Do you think that people are willing to trade away Marvin Harrison? I know it's just week one. I feel like when we're talking about this, everyone just drafted them in their rookie class. Maybe in a startup you could trade for him, or a redraft. But I know, like for me, right? If I'm sitting there and I just took the 1-1, 1-2, 1-3 for Marvin Harrison Jr., is this like a real trade target? Are people actually willing to trade them? Because when you draft someone, especially in your rookie drafts and stuff like that, you're drafting them for the investment, right? Like obviously he's not going to be sitting in your taxi squad, but like I feel like that's a hard trade.
Well, although I see your point, week one is usually the most overreacted week. People are going to be the most emotional within week one, unless you're locked in. Like this is, like unless you're completely locked and you see the vision. I think a lot of people are scared right now, not because of the way he played, but like I said, of Tua or not Tua, of Kyler coming out saying, "Hey, look, it's not my job to give him the ball." Like that. Looking at that as what it is, I feel like would scare most owners. And they're going to see that as Kyler not having a good connection with Marvin Harrison. Although that could be true, I don't know. I'm not part of that organization. Marvin comes from a good cut. I think that this situation will be handled correctly. Um, but the reason I did put him for trade target of the week is because, again, this is the lowest you'll be able to find him in his career. You will not be able to get more value for this pick anywhere else. So if you can swing this in your league, if you have a guy that would benefit um whoever has Marvin in your league, if you have a guy that you can trade and entice whoever has Marvin Harrison, get him. Get him.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, if you can get him, go for it. I mean, I think that's a great pick. I just think it's going to be a hard swing for most people to trade away. I think if I have Marvin Harrison stock, I'm personally going to be holding no matter what offer is given to me, unless they're selling the farm, which I don't think Marvin's worth selling the farm. So, but yeah, I mean, if you can get him for a discount right now, go ahead and do it. In keeper leagues, I would still be worried. I think it's going to be a developmental phase. I don't think he's going to be a league winner in key or startup leagues, but I think he could be a league winner in dynasty leagues in a couple of years. So I think if you can go ahead and do that, I think that's a great thing. That's just my take on it. I mean, take that how you
Yeah.
will. But yeah, man. So let's go segue into the trade away players of the week. And actually, I have someone. I'm gonna start. This is actually at the bottom of my list, and it was in Ryan's surprises of the week. But I think that you should trade away Jaden Reed. I think that Jaden Reed is. I'm personally not going to, but I am personally invested. But I think that Jaden Reed right now is going to be one of the highest stocks you can do because of the hype behind it. The J Lo, Jordan Love injury is going to affect his score this week. If you can sell him now when he's high, I think that's great. This wide receiver room is stacked, and I hate to say it. I saw the talent last year. I am stacked on the wide receiver room, and I have a lot of stock through different leagues of the Green Bay Packers wide receiver room, different areas. But I do have Jay Reed in almost all of my dynasty leagues. I personally think that he's going to be the wide receiver one for the Packers in a couple of years. But I think right now there's a lot of fear with that wide receiver room in the sense that you have Christian Watson, you have Romeo Dobbs. People don't know who the number one receiver is going to be at the end of this year. And I think you can sell Jay Reed after having a great year or a great week. And I think he's going to have a good week this week. I think he's going to be the guy downfield. I've also heard some rumors out of camp that it's going to be Romeo Dobbs this week. Malik Willis and Romeo Dobbs are having a great connection. But I think long term Jay Reed, after his performance, you can definitely sell him on the high right now and get a good bang for your buck and think about your future and win now situation. The other person I have on this is Brian Robinson. So he's teamed up with Eckler in the backfield in Washington. And let me tell you, Washington drafted a quarterback. Jaden Daniels looked great against the Bucks. They got the L, but the Bucks are my dark horse, one of my dark horses for this year. I think that people are underestimating the Bucks. But B Rob is looking great. He's looking like the number one receiver. People were worried about his or number one running back. People were worried about his passing attempts, like routes ran. And honestly, it is Eckler is taking some of them, but B Rob's capitalizing on them. And I think Eckler's a washed back. I said this when he was in LA, and I think both of them are players that you can trade away high right now and get a good bang for your buck. What about you, Ryan? Who's
So
your trade away, or if you have any comments on those?
yeah, no, I was surprised. I was expecting to hear another name out of yours. Um, but no, I definitely like who is the
Who
first?
are you expecting?
There's another name I put up on my surprises of the week. If you want to rewind back to the first name I listed, I expected to hear some Isaiah Likely action. Um, I
So
think
I that did come across my mind to put on there. But he was a waiver wire pickup this week. He was not rostered in a lot of things. People thought that it was a Mark Andrews number one. Mark Andrews was very well drafted. Likely was also drafted, but not nearly as often as Mark Andrews was for obvious reasons, just history. But yeah, I don't think Likely's not a tradeaway pick this week. That being said, full disclosure, Ryan and I did do a trade in one of our leagues where we traded with some picks involved too, but we traded Bigsby and Likely. So two of the big waiver wire pickups. Both of us picked them up off of waivers and then traded. But yeah, that was a. I would not put him on my trade away players of the week.
interesting, interesting. I appreciate that. If anyone from our league is hearing that, you will get great value out of my trade for Likely. Please trust me on that one. Um, moving forward, for my trade away target of the week, I have a man that people are looking at after his performance in Brazil. He was a stud in Brazil. He was a guy.
You're
Does
not
he
about
bring
to say Saquon.
does he bring it back to America? I don't think so. Trade away Saquon, get the value. Um, Saquon, 24 carries, 109 yards, three tutties. I forget his receiving yards, but one of those three was a receiving touchdown. Here's my take on this. Ready? I think the Eagles wanted to sell to the fans the Saquon trade. Now, right? Everyone sees Saquon, big name, and people loved it, right? I
Conspiracy
don't,
theory incoming.
I don't think he's gonna continue success like he did last week. Not saying that he's not gonna get you points, not saying that he's not gonna be good, but Saquon has a big name. He just had a excuse me, he just had a big week. If there's a hole somewhere that you need to fill, that the absence of Saquon would not create a bigger problem. If you can try to fill that spot and get another highly touted guy, go for it. I think this is the week. This is the best week that you can get value out of Saquon, or the most value out of Saquon. Would be right now. It's he got the most touchdowns in an Eagles debut, I believe, and I think that the
Got a
coach.
hat trick.
Yeah, I think the Eagles knew that they wanted to go for that. I felt like that just felt fed. I don't think that was a true representation of a week to week offense out of the Eagles. I don't think that's something you're going to see often. I don't think these points out in production out of Saquon is going to be something consistent. Um, Again, like I said earlier, he's going to get you production, but I don't think it's going to be what we saw in week one. Get your value now, trade him, bring in a guy, trade safe.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I've said it before. There are some offenses being built based off of the San Francisco outline. And when I say that, I mean you don't know who's going to get the ball in and out. The only one that's reliable is your wide receiver one in those offenses, and obviously your quarterback. And if there's a true running back one, that running back will also be valuable. Christian McCaffrey, but before Caffrey wasn't there, I mean, it was a split backfield. I mean, you couldn't trust anyone in the backfield of the Niners, including the quarterback. When Jimmy G was there, you didn't know if he was actually going to start because there's that controversy with Trey Lance and all that kind of stuff, and ended up being there, Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy, the one that like stood up. In a fantasy perspective, I don't trust offenses that spread the ball. Um, and I put like we talked about it before, the Packers are the same way. You don't know who's going to get the ball week in and week out. I mean, last year we had Bo Melton, which is sixth on our roster, be the 100-yard receiver and two touchdowns. I mean, it really just comes down to those offenses that spread the ball and have all those weapons. You should be weary about in fantasy. It's so easy to hold on to a player that had a hat trick and be like, this is going to be their guy for the whole year. But you're also remembering that you have a offense with Jalen Hurts who can run, and that turf was awful, so he wasn't running. You have AJ Brown, which had looks and many yards. He had an 80-yard touchdown. And then you also have Devontae Smith. Like you have massive weapons on that team to hold Saquon in hopes that that's a consistent thing. And I think you can sell high. You can grab a fringe RB1 and some picks and some capital elsewhere to like solidify your team. So I love that take. Was there any other trade away players you have? I want to go back to the trade targets. I forgot someone.
Bring it back to where you want to go. That was my hammer down on Saquon. Get him out. Get value.
Sweet. Because I'm going to say this, and then we have my favorite segment of Dynasty Depot coming up. That we are bringing back for season two. But another trade target that I have, and I talked about it, is that you want to get these elite defensive linemen, specifically the ones that are going for sacks. And one player that I am heavily hunting right now is Aiden Hutchinson. I think Aiden Hutchinson and Micah Parsons are on the same tier. And I say Aiden because I don't have Aiden. I do have Micah, but I think that it's important to be trading for these guys. I am willing to give up a large penny. I'm willing to pay the bill for these guys because these guys are league winners. These guys are on your team and they will win you games year in and year out. This isn't this year. They're going to win you games this year. They're going to win your league this year, but they are going to stack. These players only develop. Once they're good, they develop. especially players that you've seen develop into these elite pass rushing roles. And Aiden Hutchinson has done nothing but improvement or impress me since he's been in the league, and that is one player that I am very much so targeting for as a trade for target of the week. So that being said, this is Dynasty Depot. There is only one way to end Dynasty Depot, and that's with some oh so serious. So, Ryan, what is your oh so serious take of week one going into week two in the future of the NFL and fantasy perspective?
Well, I appreciate it. I'm excited to be part of this segment. I've seen it a couple times, and my oh so serious take. Jameson Williams, he's a goat. He's gonna finish top three in receiving for the year. He just fluid receiver, hands of just they're just so soft and they're pillow like, and they just welcome the ball. Top three receiver, get him at all costs. I don't care. Sue me, fire me, promote me, whatever you want to do. Get Jameson Williams on your squad. I love the guy. Ohio State receiver that Bama built. Get him in.
That's interesting. Right after the conversation about staying away from offenses with numerous weapons,
I
you
love
go you
it,
go
but
with JMO.
I cannot express. Amon-Ra St. Brown, terrible. Actually, no, that's a lie. But I don't think I just don't see him as having a career that even gets close to JMO. I think James Williams he's so much more of a dynamic player, receiver wise, than Amon-Ra St. Brown will ever be. I think Jared Goff is going to have a more than friendly target in number 9. And look, Jahmyr Gibbs, great running back. Sam Laporta is building his career as a tight end. Jameson Williams, he's going to be a guy. Is he going to be Tyreek Hill, who's just running all up and down the field looking like Bo Jackson in the Tecmo Bowl? No, not at all. And don't let my words confuse you on that. But fast receiver, fluid hips, he gets vertical. Jared Goff is going to have a weapon in Jameson Williams, and he's going to be a stud wide receiver one moving forward. I think he's going to have a breakout year this year. Mark it.
I like that take. I can't say much. I am high on JMO. I just wanted to put out there that we talked about the stay away from weapons on offenses with multiple targets, and that might be one of the 4 or 5 in the NFL that I might stay away from is the Lions. But JMO had a great thing. As long as he can stay away from the bookies, I think we'll be good. So that being said, I want to go into my oh so serious take, and viewers of this show are about to string me in by my toes. I have always said, do not invest in a hardball offense. I always said that. And I'm never going to invest in the Ravens. I do not trust what they are doing there in that hardball offense. I'm never going to invest in Lamar. I think you should trade Lamar. I think Lamar is one of the worst fantasy quarterbacks you can have in your league for inconsistency issues. Especially with Derrick Henry, even though he didn't get a lot of touches, but he was utilized. I think that the hardball offense that is happening in LA right now is something to invest in. I think that these Chargers are legit, and they have the scheme to spread the fantasy points. Unlike, I think it's because of Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert is not going to run the ball, but these fantasy points are going to be dished out. They have a quarterback that can support it. Shout out Phillip Rivers. They had it before, they have it again. Like, Justin Herbert can dish the ball in any direction. And I think that this is the first time I've already invested in J.K. Dobbins in multiple leagues at this point. I think that this Chargers offense, I'm bought in. 1 week, I'm bought in. I was bought in before the season, and I didn't want to say it because I knew in the back of my head, I was like, this is just going to be Ravens offense 2.0. But then watching it live and watching how they play, I am fully bought into this, I think that the difference, like I said, is Lamar and Herbert. I think Herbert is a much better. I don't think Herbert has the fantasy value that other quarterbacks do have, but I think everyone else on this offense is worth it to invest in at their appropriate value. I don't think any of them are overrated. I don't think any of them are underrated, and I don't think any of them are red flags to stay away from. Um, yeah, I mean, there's injury issues. I mean, they have literally the backfield of Baltimore a few years ago that all had blown out knees at some point. So, I mean, you have a risk there of re-injury. But I mean, at the end of the day, man, I think that this is a great offense, and I think everyone. We talked about Lad McConkey earlier. You have J.K. Dobbins on there, which I already talked about. I mean, it is just a great offense that I think that everyone should invest in, and that's saying a lot coming from me, who has always said to stay away from the Ravens, and I do say that, and they basically run the same scheme, if not very similar. And yeah, man, I think Justin Herbert and Lad McConkey and J.K. Dobbins is 1,000 times better than Derrick Henry, Lamar, and Zay Flowers. So that is my oh so serious take after week one of the season.
Yeah, and I'll hop in real quick. I love that take. I thoroughly love that take. I I'll tell you what, I'm not a fan of the Harbaughs in general. I'm sure they're great people. As coaches, just not someone I'd put all my eggs in a basket for. But to see the Chargers uh this past week versus the prior year, they just played so much. They look inspired. You have J.K. Dobbins, which I love that guy. I think he's gonna be a great running back. I love to see him finally get back in and get some momentum going in his way. Justin Herbert, he looked comfortable. He looked good. It was just fun to watch, and I think the NFL is better when the Chargers are good. And I don't do I think Harbaugh's gonna bring him a Super Bowl? No, I don't think he's the guy to do that. But I do think
He might bring him a fan base.
I think he's a guy who can bring the Chargers relevancy, which is I feel like what they've lacked for a couple years.
Sweet man. Well, I think with that, that is shipment one of Dynasty Depot season two, guys. And I just want to thank everyone there for letting us be part of your daily commute. I hope that you were sitting down on your couch having a drink, if you were indulging in a drink. And yeah, man, I think that it's gonna be a fun season. Follow us on Twitter, formerly known as Twitter, also known as X at Dynasty Depot. Kilger there, go show him some love. And yeah, guys, subscribe, and we will catch you in the next shipment. Peace.
Later.